Well, everyone, Christina has talked. The beautiful Christina P. She is now speaking about her divorce with her husband, Tom Segura. It's out, it's open, we've got a lot more detail, and boy, is it something that a lot of us have expected. Listen, it does me no pleasure to talk about the tears that Christina has shed here before all of us, being vulnerable out in the open, and this really does feel like a family moment. Listen, if you've been listening to Your Mom's House for a year, 2 years, 5 years, I don't know, God, how, like 10 years, is this thing 10 years old? It's been a long time. I was watching this before I had children. This is where it gets very personal with Your Mom's House, because we've been watching Tom and Christina now for a long time. Some of us, before we were married, before we had kids, we have grown with this couple. We have watched them. We've cried. We've been through, so much with them. We've watched them be poor. We've watched them become rich. We've watched Tom turn into Andrew Tate 2.0. It's been a lot. So let's dig into it. Let's talk about what's going on here. Let's cry. Let's laugh. Christina, you smoke all the cigarettes you want, friend. We're here for you. All right, so Your Mom's House episode broke today with Duncan Trussell as the guest and Christina being obviously the main host. She went right into it, not holding nothing back, and boy, did she make me shed a tear. I'm gonna tell you what, I was upset, I was sad, and everything I just said, it's because of that too. But man, did I ever feel so grateful just to like think of my wife? So grateful that I couldn't even imagine what she's going through right now, and she described it as a death, and it really does feel like a death, because obviously both of them are alive, but their marriage is dead. And here's where we get into the gossip, what is the juicy stuff about what's going on here. So I listened to the whole podcast today, and a good majority of it, I would say 2/3 of it, is about what's going on right now. And even when they kind of back off of it and talk about some silly stuff, her and Duncan, they pick it back up later. Christina really is just being open and honest and very vulnerable in this, and it's good. This is what was needed. So when this opens up, Christina starts talking about the relationship ending and how this has been going on, and a lot of things that people have been suspecting now for a minimum of 2 to 3 years, 2 years especially all of last year. I mean, there were so many signs, but even in the last few months, watching Christina smoke on the podcast, that was going around before any of this really broke. It was like, Christina's smoking. Does anybody realize Christina's smoking? What is going on? Now, with that, Christina has said, the last few years of my life have just been, a lot. She's gone through cancer, and obviously, the lifestyle of her and Tom is completely turned upside down. They've, I want to inform you, her and Tom have not, been extremely rich and extremely famous for long when you really break it down. That's why this is very, this is an odd situation, because a lot of us knew these two before they became like, global duo in the comedy podcast world. But now that this has happened, it's, it feels like everyone is intruding on it. So, that's why I want to be obviously funny with it, but somewhat delicate too, because there's still a lot to come to this story that we're going to be watching here. But when you break it down, what's being cooked in the kitchen here, Christina even kind of said this herself, that, her and Tom started this podcast when they were broke, poor comedians, and, Tom, she married him when he was broke. Nobody knew who he was. And now things are completely different. Tom is in shape. Tom has money. So, obviously she did not play the blame game with Tom. But we, as the fans that have been here watching Your Mom's House for quite some time now, listen, we know the details. We know what comments have been said over the last 2 years here. We've caught what's going on here. And a lot of this is all coming up now to where Tom wants to travel. Tom wants to tour the world. Tom is morphing into this other person. I mean, even so much so that like Bert has been making, comments on other podcasts where he's talking about, Tom's wearing Gucci. Tom's hanging around weird people he doesn't like. Tom doesn't return his phone calls. And Tom really is. He's hanging out with Hollywood. He's doing things that a lot of us are like, what is going, who is this guy? And Tom's comedy has always been this place of like making fun of people / dark humor, which we love and we like for both of them. But two, it's very obvious that Tom has really, it's like we haven't recognized him the last 2 years. There's in and out, there's moments where he's in and out, we're like, oh, there's Tom, but then a lot of it we're just like, who is this guy now? It's like he's just changed completely. And Duncan doing this with Christina was so good because he really is the best person to do this. He's so just gentle and funny to just have there. I'm such a fan of Duncan Trussell, and he really was good with this, and he made a huge joke right in the beginning of the podcast, and it was just hilarious. It was so on the money. It was so great. You have to watch it to see. I don't want to ruin it, spoil it for anybody. But Christina talked a lot about the 20 years she had with Tom and everything they had done, having children, the cancer, the businesses, having money, not having money to having all the money. But that, they're not going to be together, at least another 20 years. They're separating, they are divorced. And this is where things got even, really digging into it, where she would start to say comments deeper into the podcast, where she said, at one point she looked over at Tom recently and she was like, when she was standing by him or, whatever they were doing, she said, she thought to herself and said, oh my God, that's Tom. That's not my husband anymore. We're not together anymore. And she said that was a really weird thing. And man, that really got to me. That really broke my heart. I couldn't even imagine standing around my wife and just not thinking that she's not my wife anymore. I would be devastated, because it does feel in a way that maybe, and this is the thing, we don't know, so I don't want to point fingers here. And two, obviously Christina is open out, she's crying, she's upset, so people are going to take her side 100%. How can you not? Sweet Christina here, everyone's after Tom, but we really don't know 100% yet what's going on here. We just know that they have grown apart. But two, obviously being an obsessed fan, we know that Tom has been really morphing and mutating into this different kind of person here the last few years, so that's why a lot of the fingers are being pointed at Tommy here, if you will. But Christina did not spend the podcast talking bad about Tom. She said she still loved Tom and that she was still, in this place of where she was obviously grieving, and they were still working out what this was going to look like now. They got 2 kids, they got businesses, but, obviously more than anything, they've got 2 children, and that's a big thing right there. But it really was just wild to see this start off and go. It felt so just in your face, oh my God, is this really happening? For a split moment when the podcast started, I was like, oh, here we go. She's going to say this has all been rumors and a joke. This is not true whatsoever. And it wasn't. She started crying, and it was like, oh my God, this is real. This was the first confirmation, and it just really, it sucked. It really sucked just to hear that this this is actually true. So now that Christina is out talking about this, I don't know when Tom's going to talk about this. And, I will say this too, going back to, Christina did not want to point fingers. She said after she got cancer that she changed a lot too. And, so I don't know at the end of the day where this lies. We know Tom is really obsessed with his career, his projects, and Christina has been hinting here the last 2-3 years that she really just wants to raise her family, be at home, and live life and grow old with Tom. And that's and we've seen that on the podcast, Your Mom's House. That's been a very big open thing that these two have gone back and forth with comments, that it's almost like it starts into something in the podcast and then they drop it and go back to their guests. But we're not, what do you do here? That's kind of some pretty hard evidence there that that's a huge issue between them, and maybe that was a huge issue. I definitely don't feel like this was a jelly roll thing where it's just a lot messier. It's not like that, I don't think. So there's going to be a moment where Tom comes out, and obviously, like I said, everyone's going after Tom right now, and this was a good thing that happened, but also probably this was a harder thing too, in the sense of not helping Tom's case, because Christina's crying, she's upset. we really don't have clarity. And, like I said, I'll say it again, people have been watching Tom here, and he has been just, turning into this bro that everyone are really, it's like, I don't know, it's like having a friend that like is just like obsessed with working out, and they're just constantly talking smack, and you don't do that lifestyle, and you're just like, dude, will you shut up? Like, I don't care. So really, I don't think this story is really ending. I think it's kind of just starting into something else, and we'll see. The divorce is the end of the divorce, and it sucks, but their story, each of them, goes on, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens here next. And Christina spent a lot of the time actually just looking up all the guys that have DM'd her and talking about all the potential candidates that she could go on a date with, which was hilarious and funny. So that will be interesting to see where this goes into the next chapter for both of them, if they start dating. Obviously, I don't expect Christina to start dating anytime soon, but Tom, I think he's going to have a lady around his shoulder here probably sooner than later. We'll see. Really think about it. I mean, put yourself in Tom's shoes. For most of Tom's life, he's been overweight and poor. Right back at you, big guy. And now he is wealthy and in shape and looks like Brad Pitt's stunt double. So, I mean, what do you want here? Christina, smoke your cigs, eat your Dominoes. We're rooting for you. Take care.